Welcome to my wood shop here in the big woods of Northwest Missouri. Thank you so much for coming along as we explore the many facets of fine woodworking. Today, I'm working on my jointer. I'm getting it all tuned up, getting ready for a project. Whenever I do a major project, I try to hone my blades. Take it with a coarse stone, about 10 strokes, and then turn that over to a fine stone, about 10 strokes. I have a little jig here that I got many years ago. This jointer I've had for 36 years. I bought this many years ago and we had a little job in Memphis, Tennessee. And it's been a very good tool. I just recently had to replace a motor in it. And now I'm getting it all tuned up. I'm gonna make sure that the in-feed and the out-feed table are exactly in the same plane, coplanar. And I'm sharpening up these blades to make sure they're just right when I start my project. So here we go. We're gonna do 10 strokes with the coarse, a little oil on it, then 10 strokes with the fine. So here's the coarse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And with fine, get a little machine oil on it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Again, it's important that you be very, very careful. Safety first, always. Safety glasses, everything that you do, make sure to watch your fingers. Those blades are extremely sharp. And I just honed them, so they're just razor sharp. So you have to be very, very careful when you mess with these planer blades and you start to hone the planer blades or the jointer blades here. Today we're going to continue our little mini series on tuning up and setting up a jointer, getting ready for a new project. You'll remember last time that we were together, I talked a little bit about honing the blade. And I took the rough side here and did 10 strokes and took the fine side and did 10 strokes. And I mentioned to you that every time I start a new project, I like to make sure I hone those blades. I also talked about safety, and I try to talk about safety in each video that I do because that's so very important that we talk about safety. One thing you always want to do is protect your eyes. So use safety glasses whenever you're working in a shop, when you're working around tools. Make sure you use those safety glasses. If you're using machinery that makes a lot of noise, use hearing protection to protect your ears. And of course, if you're using machinery or tools that create excessive dust, use some type of filtration system to protect your lungs, your respiratory system and your lungs. Also, with this particular tool here, we have to be careful because the blades are extremely sharp. And I mentioned that in the last video. You want to be careful. Those blades, since I honed those are razor sharp. And it just takes a second to cut you and to cut you deeply. So you want to be very careful when you work around those blades. Make sure, of course, that you're never under the influence of alcohol or drugs or anything that would impair you, like distractions and so forth, when you're operating machinery or when you're working on machinery like this. So let me just put that out there to begin with. Now today, what I want to focus on is two things. I want to focus on the relationship of the blade, the cutter blade here, to the outfeed table. And I want to focus on the relationship, the alignment of the infeed table to the outfeed table. I've had this jointer for a long time. As I mentioned in the last video, I've had this jointer for 36 years, and it has served me very well. Several years back, I took and I did a major alignment, and I found that I was quite a bit off between the infeed table and the outfeed table. And I made sure that was in good shape and everything was in the right plane. And that has held pretty well for me. I would suggest you check that about every year. You just go ahead and if you're using it a lot and you're doing a lot of work, if you're like me for so many years, my work consisted in the evenings and on the weekends when I had time, when we were not going to ball games and wrestling matches and so forth and so on. So, but now that I'm retired and I've got more time to do this, I spend a lot more time in my shop, which means I need to check the alignment more often. So that's what we're going to do today. So let me show you a very simple way to do it to begin with, all right? So how I've done this for a number of years is I check that blade height and my table alignment with just a simple straight edge. This is a 6-foot level. I get it on there good so it's sitting really good on that outfeed table. I have no movement. I use a flashlight, simple flashlight. And when I first set these blades up, I like to get those blades so that when I turn it, and notice I'm using the belt here. Also notice that this tool is completely unplugged. There's no power to it. There's no way this could accidentally turn on. You want to make sure that all your power tools are unplugged when you're working with it. So I go ahead and I roll this around to make sure that that blade is just barely touching or just barely not touching that surface there. When I first put it in there, what I like to do is I like to shine a light and I like to see that blade just barely at the top of it, just barely touch the surface. Just here, just a slight scrape. And then move that all along the surface of that blade back and forth to get that, to make sure that's even all the way along. And I did that with all 3 blades. When I do my in-feed table, my out-feed table, I do it 2 ways. I want to make sure that the in-feed table is in the same plane, same alignment as with my out-feed table. So you can take it up all the way like I did, and I do the light test. I shine a light through that and see if I see any light coming through. And if I know if I'm seeing no light or very little light, and I see a little light in some places, but not much. I mean, here at the beginning, at the end, it looks like they're just dead on. I may have just a slight 1,000th or 2,000ths of an inch, not much. I can see just a little light through there, but it's well within the tolerance of what I'm trying to do. Then I like to lower the blade completely, lower the in-feed table completely, and then I like to take a measurement. So I'll take this right here and I'll lower this all the way down as far as it goes. And then I'll take a little pocket rule that I have. This happens to be a little woodpecker pocket tool I picked up and I really like it. And I'll just check it and see where I'm at. I'm at 1/8 of an inch and I'll check it about 3 places. And I'm good. I mean, and that's definitely within tolerance. Now, if you want to get more accurate and you want to get more precise, there's another method of doing this. And it's with a dial indicator and some precision measuring tools. And as you have time and as you have the resources, I'd suggest that you get one. I picked up a little tool here back in about 5 years ago, called an Align It. I picked up the deluxe version of it because I wanted to check my table saws and my drill presses and my joiners to make sure they were just as good as they could be. So again, you don't have to have this by any means, but this will just check to see if how you're doing. And so what you do is you put that down on your surface and you pick a reference point. I'm gonna pick sort of the center of this outfeed table. You adjust that dial and you lock it in, and I've already done this to 0 so that you know that's perfect. And then what you do is you want to rotate this blade here so that it is just at the dead top of the swing. As that blade comes around in the arc, it's just right at the very top. All right? Because what you want is that blade to, when it's at the very top of its swing, to be even with that. You want to be tangent with it. Okay? So you want this top to be tangent with the arc as it comes around. So what I do then is I just put this dial indicator, I've got it set to 0, I set it on that blade, and then I just rock that back and forth, make sure I hold it down, and even me pressing on it, I can change it maybe 10,000ths of an inch, and I just rotate that around. And as I do, I'm within, at any point here, I'm within, say, 3,000ths of an inch, maybe even 2.5 of an inch. That's pretty good. Then I check it from edge to edge to make sure I'm the same, and I'm pretty good. So I'm within tolerance all the way on this blade. Again, I'm just a little bit low, you know, maybe the height of a human hair, okay? Maybe a little bit more in a couple of spots, a little bit less in others, but that's it. So I'm good there. I'm good. I don't want it sticking up too high, because if I do and I run my board through, I'm gonna get sniped at the end. Okay. If anything, I want to be just a hair low. Then I want to check my NP table, and I want to make sure that's in the same plane. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll this up. I'm going to go ahead and set this one. Make sure that's it on 0, and it'll stay pretty good. I'm going to go up as high as this will go. And I'm going to see where I'm at in relationship here to my blade. So we'll come on up here, and it looks like I am in pretty good shape. So there's 0 right there. Okay. Again, you can check that to make sure that you're in the same basic plane here, and I am. So I'm 0 there. I'm going to come up just a hair because I know the other one's 0. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to check it side to side, see if I vary any. Again, I'm within 0.02, 0.03 of an inch. And then I'm going to check it end to end. And I checked this earlier, and I'm checking it again now. And I am within, a couple thousandths of an inch. So 2 or 3 thousandths of an inch. That's pretty doggone good. All right? That's pretty doggone good. So that's the way that you tune up your jointer and get it ready for your new project. And I would suggest that you do that really with every major project. Or if you're having issues as you're doing your planing and your jointing, then to go ahead and just check it right there. As I mentioned earlier to you as well, the true test is when you run your material through. How is it cutting? And you might find that even though your gauges and your measurements say something, when you run it through, you're getting a different result. So you may need to change things slightly. I do that on my table saw. Sometimes I'll run a board through and I'm getting a little bit of burn, and I'll adjust my fence a little bit out or a little bit in, a little bit out usually, to be able to compensate for that burn and just get the perfect cut. So thank you again for coming along. Until we see you next time, happy chips.